Don't forget to sing and play. Da 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 da.
Right. All day. check, 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 check. Check, 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 check. Kill the fly, kill the fly, kill the, kill the. Oh! Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, good. All right. Let's check it now. Hear my voice. You can hear the backing track. Got enough bass going there in the backing track. You hear the A, F, E, A. I'll give it a little more bass just to see if it helps. Feels a little quiet to me. Okay, we're in the key of no sharps, no flats. Record yourself, set your intention. Congratulations for coming to class, and know that you don't have to do anything. You're here. I'll give you suggestions, but just the fact that you're here and you stay in the room, you're going to get something out of this. You could start with long notes. No sharps, no flats. It's an A minor chord or an A natural minor. That note F, if you sit on it for a long time, it'll rub. But every other note in the A natural minor scale will sound really nice. So again, it could be long notes. And thinking about what is that intention? Is it left hand technique, right hand, body awareness, intonation, rhythm, articulation? What are you focused on? So this groove, obviously we have 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Even with that, it's like, is it a connected, you know? Or is it separated? I like the connected sound a little better. Could be half that speed. One of the things I feel in the rhythm on this groove is the impetus of the offbeats. So that's a nice exercise. Moving the note on the anticipation, but still making it feel lyrical. One of the advantages of using this scale is that everybody knows the scale. So you can think about other things. You can work on your technique, you can try to be creative, If you want to play sequences from the scale and try to kind of build your knowledge of the scale, then you can create sequences. That's a four note sequence. Two note sequence. Your 5-note sequences. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can play a 5-note sequence without even changing the note, right? You can just count the 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A sequence based on triads: 1, 3, 5, 2, 4, 6. You can play that twice as fast, twice as slow. If you want to get some chromaticism in, then you can play a chromatic neighbor of the first note of that triad. So, for example, I mean, if you're just itching for a challenge, that is. So we're going to switch keys to C minor. That's going to be 3 flats. So brace yourself for that, because it might be a little bit more unfamiliar. So then adjust your expectations for that. Here comes C minor. 2 and 3 and 4 and exactly the same, but C minor. Always work on your rhythmic things with the bow. Let's go back to A minor. Knowing that it's your choice, whatever you play, but some of the things you choose they may push outside of your limits. So knowing your limits and playing within those limits, knowing that you have the ability to do that. Even just playing silence anytime, you always have the chance to just play silence. And anytime that you feel confronted by something, just seeing that as like an opportunity, a gift, that's exactly the lesson that you get to experience from that thing that's confronting you. Back to C minor. My yoga teacher said, you know, we all have, some days we feel stronger, some days we don't feel as strong. That's okay too. Kind of noticing where you're at and then accepting that. And then knowing that you have permission to rest at any time, to stretch or to lay back. Back to A minor. So I'll play some lines, you can play them back to me. Doesn't have to be exactly the same. It can be totally different. You got it. Going to A natural minor. Okay. So I prepared some new loops for today. There's two different grooves here. I think it's a tumbao groove, but don't quote me on that. I'm not an expert on Latin music. That's pretty loud. Sorry. D minor, A7. That's the first loop. D minor to A7. What is that? Minor 1 to the 5. Minor 1 to the 5. D minor, A7. That's the first groove. This one is the other one. F. F major. C7. What's the difference? 1 major, 1 major. 5, 7. 1 minor, D minor to the 5, A7. And C, F, 1 major, F. C7. So what I'm going to do is just maybe for a couple minutes let you do what you want with them, just to try to do from your ears or from what you know about it, whatever. And then I'll give you some tools to work with it. In fact, I'll share my screen as I get this going. We're going to start with D minor. So on the D minor chord, you can think of it as D natural minor, which is the same as F major. 1 flat. You can think of it that way when you play the D minor chord. But as soon as you go to that A7 chord, just be aware there's a C sharp that's in it. It doesn't mean you can't play a C natural, but there is a C sharp in it, right? So the only difference, if you were to take that D natural minor, which is 1 flat, the only difference, if you want to make just one change, is you change the C natural to a C sharp. And that would be D harmonic minor, which you could use over the A7 chord. But the notes you emphasize are going to change. The notes you emphasize are going to be the notes in what chord? A7. So you're going to emphasize the C sharp. You emphasize the E. You emphasize the G, right? That's different than the notes you emphasize on a D minor chord, a D and an F. So you emphasize a D, D, F, then you emphasize C sharp, E, G, right? D, F. So it's not about the scale as much as it is about the notes in the chords. C sharp, E, G, D, F, A. The A stays the same in both chords. C sharp, E, G, A. So you can have some fun with that for a minute if you want. Do your thing. And if you're not sure what to do with rhythm, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Down, up, down, up, down. You can always be here. It lends itself to the bow arm very well because it's duple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, and you don't have to move your left hand fast. You can move your right hand. So let's go to the other progression, F major. This should be easier. F major scale. You can pretty much almost do anything here. If you want a pentatonic, then you can use D minor pentatonic, also known as F major pentatonic. Back to D minor. And I've got the stacks up here for you if you want them, or you can have them for yourself. We talked about, learning the chords. Voice leading arpeggios. Back to F major. These are just major scale. If I do the same thing, it doesn't work quite as well on the minor, does it? So if you hear, if I change that C sharp, the C natural, sorry, yeah. So this gets to this classical melodic minor scale, right? The D melodic minor scale. Why is it that way? Because I guess it's because when we're moving up, voices want to lead, voice leading in a certain way, right? But when we go down, they kind of want to go, they want to go like that, which is part of what I think makes it tricky to even talk about what scale do you use on the D minor chord. But I know that on that A7, you can get away with using that. You can definitely use, you can use that harmonic minor sound. So it's really a lot trickier, at least in my mind. So. Do you see how I'm just trying to make sure everybody can hear it? So over that D minor chord, I can walk down in the key of F major. But if I try to go up in the same way, it doesn't quite sound the same. It's a different sound. I almost want to hear this. Do you hear the difference? So, so there's a lot I can say about that. I mean, it's like, how do you deal with that? I just want you to be aware of it. I don't have like a simple answer. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, is use the classical melodic minor scale if you want. Otherwise, just be aware of it. If you're just going to use F major or the D natural minor, just be aware that that's the sound that you get. It's not necessarily wrong. It's just it's a different sound. It's kind of like we've talked about before with the pentatonic scale, like the blues scale, how I've said that, like, if you really want to get more nuance, then you mix two different pentatonic scales to be able to create and release harmonic tension. And so I feel like it's kind of the same way here. Now, if we want to look at, I never actually did this. I never thought of doing this exercise before, but it would be interesting. So I have two exercises we can do here, and it may be too much for some people, so bear with me. I won't take forever on it. But if you want, you could write out the ascending version the ascending version of the melodic minor scale, which is, it has one sharp. It has a C sharp and everything else is natural, which is bonkers, right? It's not a major scale. So you could write that out like this. Right? You could write it out in extended range, or for cello, start on C sharp. You can go to E on your A string or the D on your C. So you can write that ascending version out, and then you write the descending version, which is F major, right? D natural minor. And then what we can do is we can practice voice leading. We can practice like going up and down the two different scales, which essentially becomes a scale pair. A scale pair. That's when we are voice leading two different scales. So for example, on the violin, the lowest note would be G. So I'll play the ascending version. Ascending version, one sharp, C sharp, G to G. Come down, one flat. Then we go A to A, same thing, one sharp. Come down, one flat. I'm sorry, I skipped a step. Okay, so the method properly is that we take each of these scales and we do all inversions. So we do G to G, so the ascending version only, right? One sharp. So you do that at your tempo. It's only the ascending version. G to G, A to A, B to B. Read off the paper until you don't need to. Right. And then we do the same thing with the descending version. We practice sequences from that. So it's F major, shouldn't be too hard. Your tempo. F major coming down. B flat to B flat, A to A, G to G, F to F. Then we put them together. So we go, let's start on C sharp, low string solidaria. So we go C sharp to C sharp. And then we can come down from D with one flat. Then we go D up to D. No, let's go D, E up to E, sorry. And then E down to E with one flat. And then F up to F. And F down to F with one flat. I've never thought actually to practice the classical melodic minor scale that way, but it makes sense to me. So, and if you listen to how I treat it, just even in an improvisation, I think that I'll naturally do that. Yeah, I'm pretty much doing that, right? Now on the A7 chord, I'm using harmonic minor. That has a C sharp and a B flat. A lot of times jazz musicians would treat the the D minor chord, they would treat it as a D minor 6, in which case they would play the jazz melodic minor scale, which is the same up and down. And I'll let you hear what that sounds like. Right, so in that case, it's making that B natural just staying the whole time. But I'm not necessarily recommending. I mean, that's just one way that a jazz musician would play it. That's not, you know. So, so let's see if you can play some lines after me, so we can feel what that sounds like, right? I'm starting on the note A. Okay. So now that we've wrestled with that, let's look at it just from a standpoint of the voice leading again, which we did a little bit of before. But just knowing that, okay, all that scale stuff is hard. It's a lot, right? In this case, I would actually say that voice leading the chords might be easier than playing scales, because all you have to do is think about approaching these notes in the D minor chord, this triad that I've got here on my screen. Hopefully you can see my screen. D minor triad, right? And then you've got the A7 chord, which I didn't put the 7 in this stack, but you could add it. It's a G, right? And if you want to add more color, you can just add it to the stack. Like you could add the flat 9, which is the B flat. And you can even take the A out. So in that case, you would have a C sharp fully diminished, which may sound daunting, but actually it can be a relaxing shape to play because it's symmetrical. It's all stacking of minor thirds, which turn out to be major sixths, right? I mean, it's kind of tricky finger-wise, but so that in some ways is easier. So then and one of the weird things about it is then we have a D minor triad, 3 notes going to an A7 chord, or C sharp fully diminished 7th chord. Either way, 4 notes. So that is a little bit weird because when we voice lead, then we've got a double on the D minor. The A I'm playing twice, and then, right? But no matter, it's not a big deal. You can try to voice lead these. So using these as destination tones, the note in the D minor. Right? So let's see if you can play some of that back to me. And bear in mind that you don't have to play exactly the chord tones that I do. You could do your own, but I'll give you kind of rhythmic ideas. And I'll try to call out the notes I'm playing. I'm starting on the note A. F. E. D. voice leading. I'm approaching chord tones with neighbors. Upper chromatic neighbor, very weird. Lower chromatic neighbor. I don't expect you to get that. I did not get that. Okay, so play along with that. Try to do what you can with the chord tones and the voice leading. Yeah. 1, 2, you got it. One, 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 one. Let's try the bass line like a simple version. So 2 different ways you can play it, right? So it's just root, 5th, root, right? And you could play it like as it comes, or you could do the ghosting thing if you want to really, freak out. But what I'm playing on my bass line, it doesn't play 1. It goes 1 ka beat da d, which is harder. So if you want to do that, you can. So I'm gonna play what the complex version is, and then I'll give you all those versions again so you don't get too confused. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Okay, so I'll give you all those versions again, too. Ready, go. Easier version. Same thing, but with a different bowing. take out one. And if you want, you can try to learn the clave, which I think 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, da 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 1, da 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 1, da 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 1, da 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 da. That's called a 2-3 clave. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, da 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 1, da 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 1, da 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 1, da 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 da. And if you don't want to think about any of that, you can just keep your bow moving. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Just feel every eighth note, because that's all I'm doing for my comping, right? I'm literally doing this. I'm doing this. If you want to feel da 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 da. So, again, like a lot of times I talk about this idea of like playing off beats a little bit, get da 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 da. I think this is something that you could do with this beat. Part of the reason I played the other groove warming up the class was a little slower, a little easier, right? Stick with one scale, a little slower tempo. This to me is a harder like Latin groove. I think it takes time to get familiar with, so don't freak out if you're totally lost. That's normal, that's fine. But I still thought it would be worth doing, because you can also focus on the harmonic component here, 1 to 5 in minor, 1 to 5 in major, voice leading, but also scale pairs, voice leading arpeggios, voice leading scales, or you can work on the rhythmic component. It's also the type of groove that I feel like most of us can kind of at least hear. Not like we can't hear it all, right? But we can hear some of it. So I'll give you some like just rhythmic things that you can try, and you can do your own thing. You don't have to do what I'm doing, but just kind of to feel the rhythm. I'm going to keep the note side of it simple, the left hand a little simpler. 1, 2, 3. Up, 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 up. I'm just going to blow on it just for a second. See what happens. Just to see if I can give you some ideas and let you work on it some more. And then we'll go to F major. Okay? Whatever that's worth. Do your thing. Give you a couple minutes on it. Small amount of material. Digging into it. Go to F major. F major. C7. All right, let me just check in real quick, especially for because it's a little bit fast and the groove is a little bit unfamiliar, right? So, like Carolyn said, can't wait to try this at 50% speed in the playback, which, which is great. Which is I appreciate this the the humor in that, but also I want to be I want to make sure that people don't feel that it's somehow too inaccessible for those reasons. And so I just kind of want to point out that, like, you don't have to be in the clave. What does it mean to be in the clave? It means you don't have to put all the accents in the right places on the bar, right? And sound like you're doing authentic Latin rhythm or whatever. You can just focus on the harmony side of it. You also don't have to play fast, right? You can play one rhythm. Or you can just be like, you could just be voice leading chords really slowly if you want. But I didn't say that, so there might be people just being like, I can't do this. So I just want to check in, and especially with anybody who might be in that camp, or just in general, where's everybody at with this? How are you all feeling about this so far? F major is going to be easier harmonically, by the way. Okay, Andrea, that's good. Andrea said it's perfect for her, but it's her third semester. That's legitimate. Yeah, Carolyn, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm loving how right this is for other people, and how, and I'm seriously, I'm not kidding. I didn't say that just to be funny, that I can't wait to try it at 50% speed. I literally go and take the playbacks and slow them down and learn. And that is fine with me. This is my first time. And, ideally I'll get to a point where I can dive in, but I'm still getting a ton.
Okay, great. And thank you. Yeah, and that's great. And also, does that kind of at all make sense when I say, like, okay, try to slow it down? Like, if the groove is here, if you're like, do, dee, dee, oh, do, dee. Like, does that make sense, or does that even feel like something you can do, or does that am I explaining it even well enough? Like,
for me, I think you're explaining it really well. It's just like the time of internalizing both chords and being able to switch back and forth. I mean, that's where I am, and I'm happy with where I am. I just have to work at my own speed.
Absolutely. No, that's beautiful. And so just to offer as another alternative, that another way to work over this is to just use the scale, is to just use in this case the D minor pentatonic scale or the F major scale. So I'm going to just show what that looks like briefly for anybody that it might benefit, just like we did in the beginning of class with A minor, right? But here we're in F major, and I'm just randomly going down the F major 7 scale, sorry. Right? So I'm just trying to make the point that, or hopefully it's true that there can be some benefit for playing over it, even if we're using a scale. So is that at all helpful, or for you, Carolyn, or? Yeah. Okay, good. Great. And I think it's easier over this F major version, but we could still do the same thing over the D minor version as well, so that we're still working on, left hand technique or rhythm or whatever it might be, all the different things. Okay, good. Anybody else on that at all want to say anything about it? You don't have to. Yes, Andrew.
I just wanted to say that I thoroughly enjoyed learning this, and I'm so glad that it's all being recorded, because there's just a ton of stuff that is like, almost like a fire hose, and it's like, gotta go back and digest it, just like Carolyn was saying. But I really, really like it. The things that you're saying is just really, really good. So awesome. That's my feedback.
Thank you. And so maybe it's worth saying that I intend for this course to give people universally applicable fundamental skills that apply across genres. And what I mean by that is like I'm not trying to get deep into the weeds of what is a tumbao clave, right? How do we play Latin music and make it feel authentic? How do we, learn all the licks of every jazz tune? How do we play bluegrass in a way that feels Southern? And, I honor and respect all those things. And I consider myself more studied on some of those things than others because I'm very eclectic and I like a lot of different things. And some of them I've studied more than others. But what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to give everybody, okay, how can you fit into a band in any genre, right? How can you find the harmonic information of that song? How can you deal with the rhythmic components of the song? How can you improvise over the song? How can you accompany over the song? These ideas apply across every style that we cover in here. So in theory, if somebody came here and they're like, I just want to play bluegrass, in theory, my intention is that working on this Latin tune would support you in that, and vice versa. And even somebody like, let's say, for example, somebody here they're really into jazz. They just want to play 2-5-1s. I still believe the harmonic component of working on this is really going to help you in a jazz context. And even the rhythmic component, even if you're playing swing most of the time, I still think that's my intention. And I just wrote a 2,000-word blog post that I haven't published yet, which is all about, 10 things people should know if they want to become a jazz violinist. But this could be the same for becoming a bluegrass violinist or fiddle player, or you want to play Latin jazz, or you want to play EDM, or you want to do rock music. It could be the same. And basically what I said is, well, if you want to be a jazz violinist, you can do these 50 things and give yourself a long period of time and try to get like authentic and learn all this language. Or as a bridge to that, you could learn fundamentals of harmony, rhythm, and stuff like that. And then that would be more of a bridge. I guess it wouldn't necessarily be exactly the same for every style, but maybe it would. Anyway, okay. What did Ashley say here? Finding that having the chord changes every 2 measures is much more manageable, right, than just one measure. Yes. Yeah, good observation. That is generally true. And I'm actually, depending on how you count it, there's actually 4 bars for each chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, right? In this case, excuse me. Great. Okay, so let's get in the weeds on the F major and the C7. And you don't have to, but I'm gonna, for people who want to, let's do it. So F major, we have the chord stack. I'll put the chord stack up here again. So we've got the conveniently La Folia, right? It all comes back to La Folia, because in La Folia we go to F major and we also go to D minor, and that's why I love this. So it's efficient for me because I don't have to create another document for anybody. But so F major chord stack right here, C chord stack right here. Now, if you add the B flat into your C chord, then we have a C7. Here's where it gets fun. Add a D to the F chord. Then it's an F6. And that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm actually doing, you'll hear this motion. Right, if you listen. That's kind of in there. So, so we can voice lead. We can either do what's in the stack here, which is F to C. Voice leading F to C. Or we can voice lead F6 to C7. Or it could just be F to C7 or F6 to C. So F to C7, here's F. Here's C7 starting on B flat. So again, we have a 3-note chord and a 4-note chord. So F starting on C, and then C7 starting on C. So I'll have you play back to me some of those. And then the other variation would be F6 and then C7. And that's more symmetrical. And if you want to apply bebop scales, a bebop scale is an 8-note scale. On your major chord, on your 1 chord, in this case, F major is the 1 major. The major bebop scale is going to be this. It's a major scale with the addition of a sharp 5th. A major scale with the addition of a sharp 5th. Why? Because then it allows us to play the 5th, separate with the sharp 5th, and then boom, the 6 is now a chord tone. So every one of those 4 chord tones falls on a downbeat, which goes back to week 1 when I said play your chord tones on downbeats. Right? So if we go down, literally every other note is a chord tone. The way that I practice this is I go from the root, then I do the same thing from the 3rd, not changing the scale, right? So from the A. And then from the 5th. And then from the 6th. Right? And then we join it all together like this. And that is a shortcut to playing fast. It is a shortcut to playing fast over changes. Because if you try to play the F major scale, it's a 7-note scale. It's very awkward. But if anytime you have an 8-note scale, I know it doesn't sound like a shortcut right now because you're like, this is new. But if you practice that exercise I just showed you, you can memorize that and it could be something that becomes part of the language. And you'll hear it because I'll demonstrate here in a minute. Now on the C7 chord, we use the dominant bebop scale. The dominant bebop scale happens on the dominant chord. So in that case, it's going to be the major scale plus the flat 7. So from C, flat 7, major 7, 1. And that is a pattern that you can practice and it becomes a little trick. So you're going to hear what it sounds like when I use, because then after that, then we do this thing called like kind of like skiing on a mountain. That's the way the great trumpet player named Ferez Whitted, he gave me some private lessons when I was about 24. And he taught me this bebop scale technique. He only taught it to me on the dominant scale, dominant bebop scale. Later on, I kind of figured it out on the major scale. But basically what you do is once you have what I just showed you, then you practice, go figure, voice leading between 2 chords, right? But also, it's kind of like when you go down a mountain, you're on a path, but then you hit a jump, and then you come down and you got to land. So if I'm doing C7, I'm in the path, and then I jump, and I come back down on the path. And that's what you're going to hear me do right now on both of those scales. That's what I'm doing. And when you hear a lot of jazz musicians and or I don't know if I can I say Latin musicians who play Latin music, a lot of times will use that bebop language, bebop scale language. So hopefully that made sense. You're not expected to be able to do any of that, but now it makes sense. Hopefully it makes sense in theory. Okay, so you can practice voice leading. I'll give you some voice leading things you can try after me to start. So I'm going to start cello, solidarity, cello and viola. We're going to start on the note C, and I'm going to do major triads on the F, and I'm going to play dominant 7 on the C, 4 notes. But if you want, you can add the 6th. So after me on C, on the F chord starting on C. Now C7. C7 starting on C. Now I'm going to start on F. Now starting on E. C7. Now on A. Now on G. Now on C, F chord. Now I'm going to play it's F major 6th, C, F major 6 starting on F, C7 starting on E, F major 6 starting on D, C7 starting on C. B flat. Starting on C. Starting on A. Starting on G. On A. On G. On F. On E. Okay, do your thing. And if you want to do the bass line, same as before. We can even do that rhythm, but with voice-led. F chord. That's hard to do. We can take out the one. comping in this situation. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. You could just play a C the entire time. just be right here. And you can try to put accents or not. Or just keep it steady. I feel like some Kentucky bluegrass rhythms kind of work. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I might get in trouble with some Cubans. It's kind of corny. Remember, you can always approach the chord tones, you know, or even the scale tones. That's a great way to think about chromaticism, is just to approach the chord tones or the scale tones. In this case, F major scale. You can also just play chromatic. I'm going to take you back to D minor. Here we go. Harder harmonically, I think. What if we just go back to the very beginning of class and see how that initial groove feels now? I'd just be curious. That's not it. That's not it. Remember this? How does that feel to play over just for a minute or two? A minor, natural minor. Is that a lot easier? No sharps, no flats. apples and oranges. We have different limits that come up in different situations. We have to adjust our expectations. C natural minor, 3 flats. No sharps, no flats. You're like, wait, I can do this, right? You can do a lot. So probably that groove and that harmony, maybe, you know, in comparison, after we did all this faster tempo, different clave, different harmonic situation, right? Coming back to it, it might feel like a relief. It might be like, oh, wow, something I can do. Any comments, questions about what we did during the guided practice? Well, thank you, Catherine. Appreciate it. Okay, the 1 chord level, easier for Mary, right? Yeah. Okay, good.
That was good. The beginning was easier. The second time around.
The second time around, it was easier than it was in the beginning.
Yeah, well, it was easier than the second part.
Right.
But the second part, even in the first part, I think I'm playing in a different key. You know, like I'm hearing a different root, and it could be because it's stacked differently. I don't know what that is, but it's interesting to hear the different harmonics.
So you're saying it's hard to hear the bass? That I would say that hearing the bass is really important. So I don't know if there's any way to have like a Bluetooth speaker or headphones in case the bass frequency gets lost, because it, like this, you know, the grounding of no, no, dee, da, no. You know, having that reference point, I think, is so critical to being able to ground into the harmony.
Okay.
And I am happy to always make this, you know, if more people feel like it's, you know, I'll just be transparent and say that I'm always feeling a push and pull on my side as the teacher of, okay, I want to give people that want to be challenged, I want to be able to challenge them. And then on the other hand, I want to make it feel accessible and easy to do for people who want that. And so sometimes I orient that from one or the other side. Sometimes I'll play like very, you know, slower grooves, you know, diatonic, 1 major scale. But then I'll give advanced people, I'll say like, okay, well, if this is easy for you, then try this or try that, play it in triple stops, and vice versa. What we just did today was more skewed advanced, and I was trying to give people that weren't as familiar with it, you know, ways to make it accessible. So it is kind of a little bit of a tug of war for me sometimes internally how I do that. And along with that, I think is part of like, okay, giving you the feeling of I can do this versus the feeling of here's how to study something. Now I know how to study this thing that took Chris 20 years to do, and it's going to take me just as long, you know. But also, you know, the idea of that in there are a lot of musical situations in which, well, there are some musical situations where I just am not going to get involved. The tempo's too, you know, fast, or the harmony's moving too fast, the clave is unfamiliar to me. That's definitely true. Now, but if it were a safe learning environment, and I was dealing with that material, I would want to try to find a way that I could practice it, even if it's like clapping my hand, even if it's just, I don't know. But I can imagine situations where I couldn't follow it enough to do that. And so I think that's something we all have to accept. You know, there's certain tempos I'm not going to be able to play. There's certain chord progressions I'm not, you know, I can't play yet right now, or at least at a certain tempo, you know. That is part of it. I also think though that there are a lot of musical situations where I can be effective if I know my limits and if I work within those limits. And I've used the story of Les Paul many times, who I was friends with and played with for like 14 years. I played with Les Paul and knew him really well. And, you know, Les Paul, from the time he was 80 or 81 until he was 94 when he passed away. And I played at his funeral as well. And so during that time that I was playing with Les Paul, he would play every Monday night. He played 2 shows every Monday night, packed on in Times Square at a jazz club called the Iridium, and tourists from all over the world, you know, came to pay homage to the American icon that Les Paul was, and not only as an inventor and as a business person and all these things that were amazing about him, but as an entertainer, but also as a musician. Les Paul was an amazing musician. So during the time that I played with Les Paul, I would say he had like 2 or maybe 3, probably 2 working fingers on his left hand. And he played 2 shows every Monday night. And he just slayed it. He crushed it. And part of the way he made it work was he would bring young people like me out. He also brought like Paul McCartney and Slash and Tony Bennett, and all these people would come and he would let them sit in. And so Les was like an MC, but he would still play some tunes, but he didn't play a lot, you know, but he played a few notes here and there. He got his licks in with basically 2 working fingers, and occasionally he'd throw his thumb on the guitar. And he made music, and he made it happen. And I think of like Itzhak Perlman right now, who is my, you know, my childhood hero. Itzhak Perlman is on Facebook. You can find him on Facebook, and he will tell stories, and he'll play like a little bit of a song, because presumably he's, you know, he doesn't have the physical strength or whatever it is to play like he used to be able to. And but he makes it happen within his limits. There's a woman that, and you guys might have got an email about this too, but Galen Leah, you know, is a woman who is in a wheelchair, and you know, I don't know, she makes it happen. There's people that make music with all kinds of limitations. That's my point. But having said that, I'm not trying to minimize how confronting it may be for people, and the fact that there might be situations where you're just like, I can't do anything with this. So always feel free to also just say that to me, because I will try to figure out a way to modify it if it feels too hard. Don Juan, the beginning of the semester. I assume Mary is talking about Don Juan, the orchestral excerpts, because those are really hard classical excerpts. Is that what you're talking about, Mary? Yeah, okay. As a goal, got it. Cool. Any other comments, thoughts, questions?
Yeah, I'll just say I'm not dropping out, you know. students. And I did make a conscious decision, like the first time that I signed up with you and talked with you and looked at what this class would be, I didn't sign up for it because I was like, I need more skill before I can even benefit from this class. And then I enrolled in another thing and like just worked on skill building so that I could come take this, well, to build those skills, but also so that I could get more out of this. And so I'm satisfied. I'm happy.
Cool.
Yeah. And
Cool, cool.
also I'm like sitting in on some live jazz here. I mean, hello. It's not bad.
Well, you're a badass. Um, and I appreciate that you have that attitude about it. And I also respect that other people might have different experiences, and it's legitimate and valid if somebody else has a different experience. And also I want people to know that you can also reach out to me privately if you don't feel comfortable in this class. But it's going to be a mix. I guess my point is this class was harder than some other ones, but it's not always going to be that hard. I'm going to try to find the balance. Cool. All right, we are going to transition to Business Mastermind. If you're not staying, then you're welcome to go. 2 feet apply. Thank you very much. See you when I see you. On Thursday, I guess. And for everybody that is doing Business Mastermind or Entrepreneurship Mastermind, whatever you want to call it, you got basically 3 suggestions. 1 is, what's your question? 2 is, what is the outcome that you're trying to achieve that you feel stuck around right now? Or what's holding you back? Or any combination, preferably in under 30 seconds. And no pressure. And if nobody has anything, then I will share my most vulnerable fears with everybody to make everybody feel a little more comfortable. Emily, what's up?
Heyo. Okay. Question about becoming a teacher, and I'm curious how do I say this? I want to observe other teachers, kind of as many as possible, and if I find one that I really love, I'd love to like observe them for several lessons, or even watch Zoom recordings of their, Zoom lessons. And I'm not sure kind of how to ask people that, or in what context it's appropriate to ask that, or should I offer to pay for that? Anyway, anything around that, how to get teachers to let me observe them.
Great. I love that. Yeah, and it's a very thoughtful question, considerate question. There are a lot of teachers out there that are given free Zoom classes, free workshops. Let me ask, because I might be able to point you towards people specifically to start with. And I know that for myself, I started kind of thinking differently about, okay, now I'm going to actually learn about teaching, like maybe 15, 20 years ago. And so I had the same questions. What kind of teaching?
Kids mostly, or I should say, beginner level. And one of the things that's the most important to me to learn to watch is people who have kind of good timing, so to speak. I know there's teachers that like fill you with too much information, and there's teachers that kind of lay back and just kind of know how, when to pop in and give you more direction, and also just really like good natured people that make their students feel, better about themselves rather than, corrected or that sort of stuff.
Well, I mean, probably a bunch of people here probably have suggestions. Catherine probably has suggestions. Andrew, probably everybody. I would say look for Suzuki teachers. And you can find Facebook groups on Facebook. Like there's one, I think it's called Distance Learning Forum, Music Teachers, Educators, Distance Learning Forum. but I'm not sure if that's the right title exactly. There's Suzuki Facebook groups, Suzuki, and so if you go there and you just post a question, is any, I'd like to observe some teachers that are doing, if you put it in a group like that, I think there's a lot of people that usually want to help. That's just one thing that comes up to me.
Okay. And would you offer to pay, or is this just something that people do as a professional courtesy to each other?
I think the way I would put the question is, does anybody know of any good Suzuki teaching, hangouts or free workshops that anybody's giving? And then I would see what people say. And then, because you're just asking, are these things happening? You could probably even go to the Suzuki Association of the Americas, and send them a note and be like, where are some good, free Zoom classes with good Suzuki teachers that I could observe? I might be interested in getting Suzuki teacher training at some point, and I'm trying to get more information, which is honest, right? Because you are potentially interested if you can find the right teachers.
Yeah.
You could also go to the American String Teachers Association website. I'm a member of American String Teachers Association. That's a little bit more ecumenical. There's all kinds of methods. I'll tell you a good one, actually. You should go to Bornoff. So look for Debbie Lyle and FACE, which is the Foundation of, I can't remember, Association of String Education, something like that. That's the Bornoff teaching. She does a free workshop on Bornoff method like every month. You can go to that, and you can even reach out to her directly and say, Chris sent me, and she's just say, I'm looking for like good teaching, learning from good and she'll help you, because they're a charitable foundation anyway. So Debbie Lyle, I just spelled it out there. You can find her on Facebook at FACE. I highly recommend that. And they have a website. I believe it's .org, FASE.org, and they have their schedule of free webinars there. Yeah, Catherine.
This is just in response about teaching and trying to listen to classes for people who've taught really, really well, like Miriam Fried was very much a dedicated teacher, even when she was a very young performer. And she believed in what we call passing the torch. So for people who've studied from the Leopold Auer line of teaching, which is like Mozart's father and down, that whole line, which goes around the globe. For anybody who's in that kind of teaching lineage, which I am in, so disclaimer, people in that lineage are glad to have people interested in seeing what our lineage is and understanding the lineage and understanding what we believe is important in teaching. And it includes things like, Chris, you're just an amazing teacher. You teach us how to do things, how to think, and how to control our emotions and the demons and all of that kind of stuff. And you leave your ego at the door. You're an incredible jazz player, and here you are helping us like this. It's incredible. So I would say, seriously, amazing. Hats off. Thank you. If you're interested in this whole lineage, Juilliard does have a portion of their homepage dedicated to teaching because, as I said, we believe in passing the torch. So anybody who has graduated from Juilliard is allowed to register there on that page. So you have a huge number of free resources. And I would say if somebody wants to charge you to listen to how they teach, that's a great red flag to not even walk through that door.
Okay.
That's just how I look at it. I see somebody shaking her head. I see Sandy shaking her head, so please go ahead.
I think Sandy is agreeing with you. Great, awesome. Anything else, Emily?
Thank you. No, that's enough for me to bite off right now. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate all the input.
Who else has a question or whatever? Yeah, what's up, Catherine?
I do have a question. Um, I used to live in Japan, and when I moved to California almost 10 years ago, it was a question of how does one break in? And I did not want to use my connections with the recording industry, which had been quite strong. So I decided to not do studio work, even though I had done a lot of studio work in Japan and had even been invited to fly out here to do recordings as well. So I wanted to go down a chamber music route. So I thought in order to meet really good chamber music players, including Los Angeles Chamber Orchestra and stuff like that, I auditioned for and was accepted into Mozart Classical Orchestra. I play with them, and they are running into all kinds of difficulties right now with the union. And it's a question of people playing from who are different locals. Our local here is not allowing anybody from a different local to play with us unless they are part of our local. So the question comes, will this orchestra continue to be a union orchestra? If it chooses to not be a union orchestra, what ideas do you have? If it is to try to enlarge its audience, stay very high caliber because we like playing with each other, but we would have to play for free because we are union members. But what ideas do you have for paths forward for a chamber orchestra?
It's a great question, and I have a couple different answers that might feel a little controversial, and so I'll just say that out front. I mean, first of all, because I always come from a standpoint of, like a lot of times people ask me about they want to start a band, and I usually will say like, no partnerships. Because whenever we have a partnership with somebody else, we're deferring responsibility to them. And so an orchestra is the epitome of this because there's committees and it's like you got hundreds of people in a local union of musicians, and then you're on a committee as a volunteer capacity, but then everybody has to vote by committee. That's like the exact opposite of the way that I work, which is for myself. Nobody I have, and I'm solely responsible for everything. If I fail, I fail. If I don't, and I look at entrepreneurship, I look at the entire opportunity of entrepreneurship, the fact that you get to control the decisions, you get to decide your clients, and that if you can sell, there are thousands of people in the world that could potentially buy from you. So as long as you just keep putting it out there in front of people, somebody's going to resonate with you. Now, and so usually when people ask me a question like this, I'm like, I don't even want to answer that question because Catherine, I want you to succeed. I don't want you to get sucked into a cesspool of committees. Okay, now, so that's my first answer. But having said that, it is a legitimate question to be like, well, how can an orchestra get more audience? And then if we treat that orchestra like as if they were like a person, then I would say they need to sell harder. They need to do more messaging, right? Now the problem with it is that there's committees that so why is it even useful for me to answer that question? Because how much agency do you have to even influence any of that? Why do you so that's the controversial part of it, is like I feel like I want to answer a different question or go a different direction, which is like, Catherine, why are you even bothering with this? Like why are you have people you're taking care of, right? I mean, I happen to know that like you have a lot of responsibilities. You have a lot of people that you're taking care of. Why do you want to be volunteering for something? Why do you want to be volunteering for this orchestra? My instinct is run as far and fast as you can and do something that you control and don't get sucked into this, because that's how I see it. So, but first of all, so what comes up for you around that? Because you might say you're full of shit, Chris. I have a valid reason for asking this question. Answer my fucking question, in which case, okay.
No, all your questions are great. You are so clean inside. There is no poop there. Amazing. No. It's really great. The why is actually a complex one, and basically, it's a feeling of they helped me make a network of people, so that I'm a very busy musician right now, and you know, and a lot of arranging. I just got made an artist, at least an arranger and composer in residence, so I'm busy. So the why, it's a good question. And it's basically because I see somebody with great integrity running an orchestra for all the right reasons with the torch, Juilliard torch as well. And I think that what he wants to give to the community is valuable for the community. And if he were to walk away, the community would simply be minus a very large gift that he's giving. So it's in order to have the community have this gift available to them, and that's why.
Well, in that case, I feel like you could go to that person and say, how can I help? Because if that person is the leader, then they've already thought about it a lot. And so coming in and being like, I've got tons of ideas may not be what they want. So, but they may need help. They may want labor. They may want support of some other kind. So I would think if you're trying to support this person, as opposed to having like big ideas, which there could be lots of big ideas. There's tons of people talking about how can orchestras, do better and stuff like that. Engaging more with the community. I mean, better marketing, like programming. It's like all these different things, right? That everybody's talking about. But why not just go directly to that person and be like, how can I support you?
I actually did, and he even gave me a business plan that he had paid to have written. It's actually one of the best business plans I've ever seen. It is a fabulous, serious.
Well, and that goes, and so then that goes to kind of, or that feels like it goes to what I said, which is he already has ideas. He paid money to have a business plan, so I don't know that it's helpful to come with ideas outside of that business plan. I would think looking at that business plan specifically, and then saying, okay, I see your vision, I see your strategy. Now I have ideas related to that. If you gave me that business plan, then I could say, okay, here are some ideas related to that business plan. Does that resonate?
That makes a huge sense. The business plan is so good that no matter what direction the orchestra is taken, the business plan will still be valid and valuable. So my question to you though, Chris, is I've heard you come up with interesting concepts. Your creativity is awesome, and you just take a little idea and you do your micro variations. So what micro variation might you have that might resonate regarding this orchestra?
Well, so as a person who runs a company myself,
Yeah.
my experience is that when people come to me and they give me ideas, a lot of times it's frustrating to me because I've already thought of so many ideas and they don't, and they're not coming to me with where I'm at. They're throwing ideas at me. So that's my caveat, is to say, I don't think it would necessarily be helpful to do that. I would look at the business plan and I would ask questions about that and just say, how can I support? But having said that, just in a generic vacuum, how can an orchestra do better? Sell. Sell.
Sell and get a larger group of people as angels. Yes, on the board. Expand the board. The expand the board is the only way I can actually see him making it.
Okay, great.
I wondered if you had a different idea, but thank you a million for that. You've affirmed everything that I've done.
Yeah, no, I mean, I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I mean, getting a board, I guess, is one way to do it. I think another way to do it is to knock on doors and invite people to come to the symphony. That's what I did with everybody that's sitting here. It's like I knocked on your door. It's, to me, I'm very much like in some ways I'm very kind of primitive. I mean, it's just very, I just keep going back to the drawing board and knocking on doors. And I think that And that's what I see a lot of people that I coach, they're struggling with the same things I'm struggling with, which is like, can you make 5 offers a day? Can you make 10 offers a day? Can you put an offer on Facebook and then see what happens? And if people don't resonate, then change that message slightly and try something else. I'm seeing different orchestras that are, doing a better job of just having a social media presence, trying different offers to get people in the door and stuff like that. I feel like a lot of institutions are just kind of, and maybe this isn't fair, but I suspect that sometimes they're just kind of lazy. They rely on big boards, they rely on grants, they rely on, and they don't have that urgency of, I need to get, 50 new people to our concert next month. Like, who's going to make this happen? Like, knock on doors, literally knock on doors. That's that's my framework.
Great. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Yeah. Who else has got a question? Welcome, Shalene.
Okay, I was going to totally stay out. Wait, Christian, you're muted.
Sorry, I was just trying to say, Carolyn, yeah, what's on your mind?
Well, I just wanted to reflect on what you just said to Catherine and say, as a producing artistic director of a small theater company that's a nonprofit, which I assume the orchestra is, I couldn't agree more with the notion that people come in with ideas. What you should do is, what you ought to do is, what you ought to do is, and that's real different from what do you need. I think that what I appreciate so much about these business sections with you is that it's so much about just do the work, do the work, do the work. And I certainly think, I don't know what the situation is with the artistic director of the orchestra, but it's exhausting and there's so much burnout involved. So Catherine, your ability and willingness to say, this orchestra gave something to me and I want to give something back is just remarkable and wonderful. And yeah, and if you can approach that person with a, what can I do? Can I have a dinner party with some of your wealthy donors? Can I, et cetera? Can I provide the entertainment for a dinner party? I think that there are ways that probably those of us who don't have like boatloads of money could provide something that people who do have boatloads of money and want to support their community would really enjoy and really get behind. So go you, and go Chris for saying, ask what they need and find out where your talents and their needs coincide, and then go for it, because that's where you'll have fun and they'll get a need met.
Thank you so much. I actually am a specialist in getting needs because I wear 2 hats, and one hat is as an double executive MBA. And so I worked, yes, exactly, as a vice president at Merrill Lynch and stuff like that. And getting needs is my job. Yes, that is exactly what I went to him and asked him for. But as you were talking, I just remembered one place that is this group of very, very wealthy ladies who want to donate to the community. In fact, there just another one just popped into my mind. So thank you. That's where I'm going to knock on doors. Thank you so much.
Love it. Yeah. Carolyn, you've been an executive director, I guess, for a long time of a theater company. It's heavy. A lot of expertise here. Who's got a question or anything you want to share? Emily, what's up?
I got another one if nobody else does. Let's see, who was that? Catherine's question actually inspired me. So I have a music camp. Actually, I should tell you, I just got done at Thrive City boot camp thanks to you. I wouldn't have known about them otherwise. So that was awesome. I highly recommend it to everybody and send your students. But I want to ask, I have a music camp that I grew up going to that has always had a ton of trouble financially. And I know that CSW was originally a residential camp. Is that right?
Yeah,
And
it's
I'm
still in Asheville. I do a residential. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, cool. I guess I'm just curious. Anything you know about um, how to make a residential music camp more financially sound? Some of the tips I got from them were you just got to get grants because it's not something that's sustainable otherwise. But I was curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I would say, well, I would go the other direction with it. I would say sell tickets. And the biggest thing that helps sell tickets is having more time, because you can follow up harder with people. You can make deals to get people to raise their hand and come in first. That sort of thing. It's just got to be you just got to beat people down with offering to get them in and asking them to sign up and giving them deadlines for each, like early bird and that sort of thing. You got to give them reasons to come. Um, and then, because for any nonprofit, I think that Carolyn might have she might agree or she might disagree, but a lot of times people think that nonprofits, you just get grants and everything's good, but most of the nonprofit consultants I've spoken with have all said, like, no, it's a business. If you don't have a viable business, you can't rely on grants. Grants, and also, if you are going to try to get grants, it takes time. And getting grants is a sales process, by the way. You got to have conversations and ally with the granting agencies, that's their job, is to ally with you. You have to get way ahead of it, follow up with them, just like as if they're your customers or clients. And if you get a $500 grant the first year, you need to apply a year out. You need to have a conversation with the granting agency before that happens. Then you get that. Then you get 1,000 the next year. Then you get 5,000. Then you get 10,000. Then you get 20,000. But it's a long game. And so the best way to succeed with a nonprofit is to sell tickets.
And you don't mean to the concert, you mean tickets to students taking the classes.
Absolutely.
Okay. And yeah, do you I've never actually looked at your in-person thing. Did you do it with, like, here's a regular level and you can apply for scholarships, or did you try to just hit a price that most people could earn money for?
I charge a lot of money for my in-person camp. It's $1,000 for tuition. and then it's plus room and board. It's not a cheap camp. And my wife just told me this week, because my son went to just a day camp, and it was like $350 for the week, and it's just a day camp for blacksmithing camp or whatever. And I was like, really, $350? She's like, yeah, you can't get day camps for less than $300 anymore. It's like, I remember like 10 years ago they were like 150 or 200 years. She's like, no. So you get people to pay, and the scholarship thing, is that's like another thing. Sometimes it's not worth it to deal with scholarships, and there's lots of ways that people can get funding if they really have a problem, if they really have a need, if they value the opportunity. There's lots of places they can get scholarships. There's Rotary, blah blah blah. You can create scholarship fund, you can create a 501c3, but for me, it all boils down to offer a service to people and sell it. That's honestly what it is to me now. And I've been the executive director and the founder of a 501c3 for about 10 years, and we do get some grants, but because my wife is an attorney, she's basically like the best grant writer you could ever hire. She wins grants. She does not play. She's overqualified. She's like the NEA don't even, I ain't sweating it, because she's an attorney. And attorneys know how to follow directions and write and organize and answer questions in the perfect ways. That's her skill. And so, but we would not be existing if it weren't for selling tickets. We sell tickets for stuff. Even the free stuff that we make is revenue generating. All my YouTube videos, all the podcasts, all the scholarships, we generate revenue. I'm generating revenue here. The people that are here, you paid to be here. And you are supporting a charitable cause. And occasionally there might be scholarships and things like that. But There's no easy way. It's, if you want to get grants, then you play the long game and you work hard to get grants. If you want to get people to a camp, you sell tickets. In my humble opinion. Now, I would love for Carolyn to give it in a nicer way, because that's what she did last time. Or anybody else that wants to disagree, because it's just my opinion.
Sorry, you're making me laugh really hard. Camps are hard. They're so hard to sell. But yes, I think it's the mix of grants and paying customers and private donors. And if you've got a public entity like a county arts council or something like that, that combination can really work. If you've got the 501c3, if you're just trying to, run a business, a for-profit business, then that's, I run a nonprofit, so I don't know. But I know when I first looked into grants, the grant center that I went to for training said grants are going to be about 12% of your revenue. And maybe it's a little more dangerous if they're more than that, because then if you lose that grantor, right? So I think the mix is really important. And one of the things that I appreciate about Chris is that he kicks ass and keeps reminding me, you actually have to sell, whether it's to a donor or to a grantor or whatever. It is about making a great case for why it's absolutely essential that your camp succeed. And people who want to learn what you have to offer should really come to your camp. And, all of that kind of stuff. And it can be really hard. I think you can do it, because I just think if you really want to do it, you can do it. But that's my nice part. But I won't say, I think it's really important to remember, as someone said to me years and years ago, nonprofit is a tax status. That's all it is. You still have to make money.
Yeah, the first Creative Strings workshop that I held, there were 7 people, maybe 8, something like that. And my dad was like, why don't you call people and invite them to come to Columbus and study with you for like 3 or 4 days and teach them everything you want, blah, blah, blah. And so I just started calling people, do you want to come, do this? And I just beat them down, and they came. And that was one of the most profitable years for me, to be honest. It was more money when I had 7 people than when I had like 80. Because 80 people come, and I'm paying like 18 teachers. I'm organizing a festival, and there's like, got to bus people, and then I have scholarships, and that costs. I mean, the most exhausting thing I ever did was give free rides to kids from Atlanta, actually, which is where Carolyn's from. And it was that the program that I worked with down there. You know which one I'm talking about, the music.
Atlanta Music Project.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm gonna bring these kids, and I'm gonna give them full rides, and like, oh my God, the amount of hours, because people didn't necessarily trust me, which I don't blame them for. They're like, who are you that wants to give our daughters like a full ride to this camp in Ohio? And, and it was like so much work, and like flights, and like, rooms, and liability, and like, how are they going to be transported on the camp? And it's like, it's a lot of work when you start getting into scholarships, and it's a ton of liability, because as soon as you're like, oh, I'm just going to give somebody tuition. Well, a kid who needs tuition, they also need a violin, and they need a ride. And they need food. It's deep. That's why I promoted John's camp so hard, because I respect what he does. And but John comes from Baltimore. He comes from the inner city of Baltimore. He had nothing growing up. I mean, he's a bad dude. He's amazing. He's a minister. Like, he lives he's like Mother Teresa to me. That's why I respect him so much, because I've tried to just dabble and not on that level. And so I'm sorry. I feel like I got distracted, but the point is, for anybody, and I've had this conversation with Shalene a lot. It's like, okay, you want to sell something? Reach out to people and be like, would you want this? Get people to raise their hand first. How would you want it? What would you want? Get them to raise their hand. have some conversations. Once people have raised their hand and they've said what they would want, that when they would do, then you've got enough that you can say, okay, I'm doing this. Okay, it's real now. You can also say, okay, we're going to do a camp next May. Who would want to do this? If I can get 5 people that will pay a deposit of $50, then it's going to be real. Then you make it real. That's the that's the tactical side of how to do it. And I've shared that a lot with Shalene, and I feel like, I mean, we've kind of had some version of this conversation, right, Shalene? Where then it's like, I think most of us, and this is for me too, like we have a really big idea, and there's sort of a comfort in like this big idea, but there's a lot of discomfort in having that first conversation, putting out a phone call and be like, would you pay me $50 for a session? If it's Shalene, or $100, would you hire me to be a private voice teacher? Or whatever that. I feel like that's where a lot of times we get stuck, like knocking on the door and asking somebody to come to the symphony concert. That's hard for me. So I've been trying, even just this week, and I'm paying a coach right now who I meet with once a week, and that's what we're dealing with, just productivity and seeing the difference between like the psychological resistance that affects me sometimes versus the tactical side and the clarity, or just organization. So, and Emily, I feel like we've had these conversations as well too. Like, I mean, I feel like you've got like a ton of big ideas, right? And then and I'm not sure if it's changed at this moment or not, but I'm remembering back a few months, that's my memory, is that that you'll have like a lot of big ideas, but that it's possible that, just like for me, that you feel a resistance about taking like that next step and like following through. Does that resonate or not?
Yes and no. My ideas a few months ago were still along, uh, you know, going towards being a teacher again. And I'm taking the steps at this speed I'm at. I'm rehabbing my shoulder. I don't feel like I'm ready to teach until I find methods to fix that, so that I'm not giving, baby violin players issues. And I got some tools for that at this Thrive City place. I'm still looking to other people for posture and things like that. So I'm still going towards that. And I'm not talking about, just to be clear, starting my own music camp. There's one that's near and dear to my heart that I'd like to see them survive, and they've been having issues. And somebody told me that like even Interlochen and Idlewild, survive on grants and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, so I was trying to figure out just some business ideas to possibly help this place get going. But anyway, this brainstorming session has been really helpful, just helpful for me, to understand. And yeah, so I feel like I'm taking steps forward at the speed I'm able to. But man, that what you described, Christian, about a coach who helps you deal with tactical, whatever it is, attention or organization issues, as well as sort of the psychological resistance, I'd be super interested in something like that. Because yeah, I've got like concussions and ADD and OCD and all that stuff, and then the whole emotional side of it. And I'm always thinking, what is holding me back right now? Is it organization and accountability, or is it emotions? So that sounds really cool.
Well, what do you want? When you say what's holding you back, what holding you back from what? What is it that you want?
Taking more aggressively the steps towards becoming a music teacher. Like, yes, I've been putting feelers out there for the right PT that knows how to work with musicians, but like, have I been going gangbusters at that? No. Yeah, becoming a music teacher and rehabbing my shoulder, and those sort of, to me, go together, because what I want to become is a music teacher who knows sort of how to have people be athletic musicians and keep their body in good shape and know the right posture. I want to help people avoid what has happened for me.
Why do you want to become a music teacher? Or do you know, or can you answer like why? Like, you want to make money? You love it, or I don't know.
I do love music. I do love kids, and it just seems like the most, when I look at my skill sets and what I'm likely to be able to contribute to the world, it seems like, uh, yeah, it seems like the best thing I have to offer, and something that fits, that's not way out of character for me.
And so what do you think would be like 3 things that you could do that would move you fast towards becoming a more aggressively towards being a music teacher? Like this week, what would be the biggest things that could move you towards that?
Um, Biggest things. Yeah, when you say this week, I'm like, man, I'm helping my dad rebuild his house from the flood. I'm doing like, I don't have time. Like, this is what gets in the way. Like, I don't have time taking business school classes. But if I was gonna be more aggressive, I guess I would, I don't know, call 10 physiotherapists and uh, you know, look up, find a music teacher to shadow. Like I was asking you guys for suggestions earlier.
There are certifications for teachers as well. Have you thought about that? Like Suzuki certification, for example?
Um, yeah, I have thought about that. I'm interested in that. I don't really know which one to choose. There's Suzuki, there's the Mark O'Connor thing, there's 2 others that somebody just told me about. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I have them written down somewhere. Yeah, not quite sure how to choose one, which is partially why I'd like to observe lessons. Um, Give me a better idea of what I will be becoming with those methods.
Can you refresh me? Are you a violinist?
Mhm.
Cool. And have you ever taught a private lesson before?
Yeah, I taught private lessons for about a year. Um, uh, in Bozeman, Montana, and I did it and not, flying by the seat of my pants, and only because the local studio just kept begging me. They said, we have students and we don't have a teacher for them, so I thought, well, I'm better than nothing. But I would like to be better than nothing. My students liked me and stuff, but I felt like I was not offering them, a thorough curriculum base.
So what would be the worst thing that happened if you just picked a certification that was easy to do, like for example, I'm saying Suzuki, but it could be Bornoff or whatever. Like what's the worst thing that could happen, like if you just did one? If you did a certification in the Suzuki Book 1, for example, for 5-year-old violin players, like what's the worst thing that could happen if you just did that? Why not just do it?
Yeah, I mean, money is, kind of finite, or it takes me a while to, save it up. And I guess the other thought is it can be easy for me to get sort of sucked down a road just by the people that are around me. And if it, I don't know, like, I don't know, if it ends up not being the greatest culture, it might be just, I don't know, that
So
I
so
might not swim against the grain.
well, so let me just give a little feedback about that. I mean, I think that like you've already taught, right? And so you you had some success with some of your students, and you also felt like some areas, it sounds like, where you weren't sure like how to do everything, which I think is just the nature of being a teacher. Like we learn by experience in part. So if you go and get a Suzuki certification, see, Carolyn, that doesn't make you don't have to then teach like a certain way. You don't even have to be a part of a culture. It just gives you skills.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I guess honestly, what's holding me back the most is just that I'm juggling life. I'm helping my extended family, and I'm, taking online business classes because I started that a while ago, and I'm trying to finish the certification. And I'm hanging on, just making it to these, and I think that's what's holding me back the most. But yeah, I guess I should achieve one of the two things we're talking about, either finding a physiotherapist who can, because I've done PT for like 6 months on my shoulder and it didn't go anywhere. So yeah, I need to pick somebody and continue pursuing that. And um, yep, I did that. I did ART for with a chiropractor in California. I wish it worked for me. And maybe it was, I don't know, maybe it was the wrong practitioner. I was really hopeful about it.
Well, a lot of times there's chiropractors, they just do a little bit of it. But if you go to like somebody who really focuses, it's a big difference for me. But I don't know, Carolyn, what did you have? You had something to offer?
Yeah, it's not about that. I just wanted to say, it, I'm over here in the nice zone. Um, I think that you're taking business classes. That is a step toward becoming a teacher. That you're doing it.
Thanks.
So
Yeah, that
yeah,
too.
yeah. And then, there are other things, of course, but it's not like you're not doing anything. And sometimes for me, it helps to remember, oh yeah, I did put one thing in place. Look at that.
Yeah.
And you'll put the next thing and the next thing and the next thing in place, but you've put this in place.
Thank you. I need both of those. I thank you for affirming what I'm doing, Carolyn, and thanks for putting some fire under my feet, Christian. I am it's true. And showing up to this class, I am shadowing Christian every week and observing teaching. So that's a big part of what I'm doing here. So yes, I'm just gonna give myself an assignment though, because I get where you're pushing me towards, and my assignment for myself is I'm gonna say choosing a PT person to go with by let's see, I'm out of town a lot the next couple weeks, so I'm gonna say by the first week of September, um, uh, choosing and going with a PT person so I can take more steps forward.
Well, one of the things my coach told me was to make a distinction between MIT and shit to do. So MIT is the most important tasks, and shit to do is just the shit that happens in life. And so this distinction hopefully will be useful for you guys. But uh, so what I'm looking at is like every day I'm like, what are the most important tasks that are going to actually help me like move forward to a different place, like to the place that I want to go. So for you, that could be like, what are the most important things that you can do to more aggressively become a teacher, which was your words, I think, right? Or
Mhm.
if it was Shalene, if Shalene's like, I need to make another $1,000 a month or whatever, then it's like, well, what are the three things, that you can do that and she gave me these three categories. So it was now money, later money, and infrastructure. So, and then if you put things into those categories, it kind of helps. But so so for me, like sales, and then it might be like some marketing, and then it might be like learning a technology that I need or something like that. Those might be things that are going to push me into the thing that I want, and trying to identify those every day. Then those are separate. That's the MIT. That's the most important tasks. The things that are actually going to create, that are going to move the business forward or move your lifestyle into a new place. And that's separate from shit I have to do. Like I have to respond to this email. Like I have to go get physical therapy, even. Like that's, even though it's important. I'm not saying it's not important, but it's like, it's kind of surviving in a way. It's like getting to and in fact, I'm not even sure what she would say about that. But and so I think a big part of it is learning to say no to a lot of other things too. And so that might be another place to start with, is just to say, what could you not do? What could you be stop doing? Because I tend to be kind of a people pleaser often too, and so I don't always set boundaries. And so just practicing, like, I'm gonna, instead of spending an hour on the phone with a friend who needs my support, I'm gonna spend 10 minutes and give them quality support for 10 minutes, but set a boundary at the beginning of the call, whatever it might be. So those would be potential ideas.
Thank you. It's really helpful to talk through this stuff. And I get the now money, the later money, the infrastructure one. What's that?
I think infrastructure, maybe, I'm not totally sure. I mean, you can play with this a little bit, but I mean, like, even like your shoulder might be considered infrastructure, like certification might be considered infrastructure, versus like now money would be like getting a gig this week, a client this week. Later money might be like having like one page where people can pay or can take a free trial lesson. And so, although that could also maybe be considered infrastructure. So like if Shalene is, a lot of time, I'm just bringing Shalene up because I feel like a lot of times she has a similar question. She's like, I have a service that I want to provide and I'm stuck on how to provide it. And so usually I'll say like, okay, well, can you have like one page where people can get information about it and they can sign up? They can either pay right off or they can take like a free trial, right? Usually, so that's like the minimal possible, marketing. And so for Shalene, I'd be like, that's important. Let's get that up. And then it would be like, and otherwise, sales calls, make sales calls. That's important. And whether that's like a Facebook post that is one-to-many sales offer, or whether it's like calling people. So that would be, I don't know, I might have stopped answering your question, but that's why I go down that road, because usually that's what it is. And then usually people are just, including myself, overwhelmed and psychologically distraught about the whole thing. And, for a lot of reasons, we all have that. And that, Evan's not here tonight, but a lot of times he's really good at like talking about, well, why is it that you always seem to get distracted, or there's always a reason why you don't make that phone call, or you're always filling your life with all these other things you're doing, whether it's, this or that, or there's a reason why you're not just going to do one certification. You know what I mean? It's like, and I have all those things too, like times 1,000. And, and so for me, it's like, because, it's like, well, because I have like dread about, the world falling, like I'm afraid that I'm going to say something wrong. I'm afraid people are going to like not like me. I'm afraid that people like are just repulsed by me. I'm afraid people don't think I'm attractive. I'm afraid, I'm not good enough. I'm afraid people are going to find the truth about me which is that, all these bad things about myself that I'm ashamed of. And so, but then that turns into all these like excuses. Like, oh, I don't know how to use that technology, or my, or it could be like, I'm tired. My shoulders are sore. Could be what, it could be like whatever, like it could be all kinds of, there's too many things to do.
Yeah, I relate to everything you're saying. We could have a neuroses off, a neuroses list off, and I'd match it toe for toe. But yeah,
So what's one thing that you could do? Is there anything that you could do that would be a step forward?
well, like, I mean, I think I set what's reasonable for myself right now, which is finding a PT person and moving forward with that. Because if I can't fix my shoulder, I don't see myself teaching violin. I mean, I guess I could, but I feel like I'd be the worst example in the world. Like, you should learn from me because look, I hurt myself and I haven't found out how to fix it, you know? So to me, that's the next step. Or did you mean what can I do about the neuroses?
No, I meant about becoming a teacher because I mean um well, yeah, I don't know. That's interesting to me because I mean, why couldn't you teach with with a messed up shoulder?
Um,
I'm just
I guess
curious.
I feel like it would broadcast to people that I had improper posture and I never figured out what the right posture was. And therefore, I'm probably not going to set you up in a good way because I don't know what caused my problem in the first place. I mean, obviously, it has something to do with posture, but I haven't yet found someone who goes, "Oh, what your problem was this," and you know, here's why this all happened in the first place. Um,
Well,
and
right,
that's
but is that feels like there's a lot of assumptions in there that like you need to know the reason or that there even is a clear reason or that it's like your fault somehow, but I don't know that like your shoulder being hurt is your fault. Do you feel like that's your fault somehow?
maybe not fault, but I do. It makes the most sense to me that there was something about my posture that created this because I know lots of fiddle people who don't have a problem, and
I hardly know any fiddle people that have not had problems.
yeah,
I didn't play for 3 months like this last summer. Like I
right.
have like, so I mean, anybody that the older we get, like the more people just have problems. Like that's just that's natural. And it's not like there's right posture and wrong posture. There's like so many, and there's different body types and there's different like things. So I feel like, you know, I'm yeah, and I mean, and also like if becoming a teacher is really the thing you want to do, but first you have to fix your shoulder and you're stuck around that, how to get that fixed, that feels like it's postponing a state of limbo. So I mean, I'm not saying what you should do, but I'm saying like why not either teach now or do something else now? I'm just curious what comes up for you.
I think I am doing something else now. I
What's
think I like
what's that? What are you doing? What's that? You mean yeah.
I'm taking business classes and I'm helping my dad rebuild his house after the Yellowstone flood. Like, you know,
Got it.
I have stuff going on, and I have tendrils out into thing like being at this class for me is a step towards teaching. It's
Well,
being around a really good teacher and it's watching how you communicate stuff to people and how you structure and the language you use, and you know, so for me this is a step towards teaching. But I like what you're saying because I didn't have a way to get myself to justify like, oh, I can be a teacher with a hurt shoulder. But I mean, if you don't think I'm a like I felt like I'm a danger to kids, you know, I'm like, if I can't figure out what's wrong with me, then I'm gonna, I mean, none of my students in my first year of teaching had neck and shoulder issues, but then I was teaching my nephew over the pandemic and he started going, my neck and my shoulder hurt. And I was like, I don't know how to fix it. And I don't want this to happen to you because that's what happened to me. It was like, it started little. I remember just thinking, oh, I got to be strong and I got to like, I'm just working on my muscles. And I didn't know that I was like messing myself up. Um, so my nephew, that example was teaching my nephew. I was like, man, see, this is evidence that I should not teach until I know more about posture and setup. And I do think there's some truth to that. Like I really do want to become a teacher who is much more well versed in not how to not mess up your body. Um, but I think there's also truth in what you're saying, which is you can get certified and learn along the way, and that'll probably open doors to, I don't know, meeting people who can advise me on this.
or not getting certified, but just taking students and watching YouTube videos about posture and about why shoulder injuries occur for students who play the violin, because it's a very specific question. Like your nephew, like got a certain pain, and he was doing a certain thing, and that's on YouTube. I mean, I have a YouTube video on that, but so do many people, about how to teach. It's free, and it's just one area of inquiry. And so to be a teacher there's only three things, in my opinion, to be a teacher. And it is to come from a place of love, to be a step or two ahead of somebody, and to come at them at their level. And so you're qualified to do that, and you've already had good, experiences with students, and you don't have all the answers, but nobody does. I don't either. I don't have all the answers for you right now. But that doesn't make me not a good teacher. And so it shouldn't be any different for you, in my humble opinion. And so, you can answer those questions on YouTube, and you can do that if you want. But I hear you saying both things. I've heard you say during this conversation, number one, that you want to take more aggressive steps towards becoming a teacher. And I've also heard you say there's nothing else that you should be doing. You're already doing what you need to be doing right now. I've heard you say both. And so I'm not going to push you. I'm just here to support you. If you want, suggestions, I can give them to you. But, if you're happy where you're at, then I support you in that.
I think I did want suggestions, and I think, I'm just kind of like a on slow cooker speed, not stir fry speed towards becoming a teacher, and that's okay for me. I think you were asking me like, what's holding you back, and then I said, well, if I was going to pursue it more aggressively, here's what I would do. So I think I'm just going to turn up the heat a little bit. I didn't think that YouTube could answer these specific posture questions, just because I don't even know what's wrong with me. So I don't know what to, I don't know what to YouTube. I asked the PT that I was working, or chiropractor that I was working with, to describe what was going on with my muscles, and he never responded to my emails. But you would just type in like how to not hurt yourself with violin posture or something.
Sure. Yeah. And I think that most kids are not in danger of getting injured because they're strong when they're kids. And, and even like when I was a kid coming through Suzuki, like I developed all kinds of mistakes in my posture. So do both of my kids. That's normal. Kids like learn the violin imperfectly, and the later on in life they learn new ways to do it, just like singers. Shalene is a singing teacher, so I'm sure when she sang for the first 15 years of her life, she didn't sing with like correct posture or technique, and she and if she would have been older and done that, she could have hurt herself. But as a kid, she's more resilient. So it's not your responsibility to have all the answers. It's I think as a teacher, all you need to do is come from a place of love and do your best, and you try to find answers and help people, and so. But anyway, good talk.
Yeah, thank you for all of that. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So Shalene, what is up with you?
Hi. Well, first I'll just confirm that vote of confidence as a teacher to just move forward with it, and not to think that you have to have certifications, or that you even have to know how to fix what's going on with you. I teach swimming as well as music stuff. So I have a big swim program here in Asheville, and Chris helped me a lot at the beginning, and when I was putting myself out there. And I had a fancy certification, but eventually that fancy certification became absolutely irrelevant. And what people they want you for what you bring to it. So you just do it. Just get out there and teach, and you're absolutely capable and able and more qualified than you might think. I am in the midst of my swim session. My swim season, it's like the busiest time of year. And for some reason, this is like you were saying, the most important task and shit to do. Some of my blocks have been that I created a situation for myself where I had to move right in the middle of my swim season. And as I was in the thick of it this week, I was like, why did I think that I had to move now? Why didn't I like wait until I was less busy? So that's like acknowledging some more of like the parts that come in to like hold me up and block me up. I started talking to people in the pool today because the month is gonna to wrap up. And I just started to throw out ideas to current clients, like while they're in the water. I want to be able to like connect with you all outside of the water. I want to break from the water. Plus, I'm not going to have my pool. Here are some things that I have in mind. What would work for you all? So I'm thinking of about
What was their feedback on
music, a family music jam.
that was the feedback that people gave you?
Mm-hmm. Well, for the options that I was like, because I'm doing, singing for healing and some voice activation projects.
What did can you be specific? I'm just curious. Can you be specific about what people said? They were like, I want to do this, or like how many people said they want to do this or that? I'm just curious.
Yeah, it was just a few clients today, actually, because ended up canceling for Thunder. But what they said was music, family music jam. That sounds like something we could be on board with, especially
how many separate
kid.
clients, or was it one family, or
that was one family? Yeah.
Okay, and so how many kids are in that family?
One.
Okay, and so the family said, if you did a family music jam, we'd like to be a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and what was the exact wording that you used when you asked them the question? What did you say?
I said that just reminding people that this season is wrapping up, because that is another thing that's happened through the course of all of this. The place where I was teaching, I wasn't able to teach there anymore, and I had to switch all of my clients over to another pool. And I don't have a place to teach starting in September. You know this game. We've played this game a few times. So in September, I won't have a pool to teach in anymore. So I said to them, oh, you're muted.
Sorry, so you said I won't be able to teach swimming after August, but
how I would like to continue to connect with families outside of the water. And I'm trying to figure out a way to do that. Here are a couple of the ideas that I have.
What were the couple ideas that you said?
Well, one of them is a thriller flash mob. Doing a thriller flash mob here in Asheville. The other was a family music jam.
Okay, great. And they said we'd be interested in a family music jam.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I love that. And how did it feel when you spoke all of that to them?
It was affirming and clarifying, because as I was thinking about it and the logistics of families being involved in something, and something that isn't maybe not too difficult, like learning dance steps for a dance can be pretty difficult, but something that feels like it's more casual and laid back and that families can be involved in. It was just more affirming and clarifying. Like, if I want to be able to market to my current swim clients, this is family music jam is a good way to go about engaging those people that are already paying me to spend time with me. And yeah. Oh, and then there was one other thing that happened in the pool today that I didn't quite make an offer, but I know that I can, and we'll just be clarifying on that. Doing singing for healing. There was one of my last clients of the day has cerebral palsy and autism, all kinds of like very nonverbal, can sometimes hold himself up, but we like help him into the pool and out of the pool. And I stayed afterwards I had my guitar, and he's entranced by music. So I stayed afterwards and played, and they ended up sitting there by me for like at least 30 minutes, and he was just watching how he responds to music. And then hearing mom say it's like he's in a trance. And she said to me, you sent a video, and I'd forgotten, because this is what I do, because the singing is like my offering, right? Right. So I had forgotten that I'd even sent her a video. He was probably sick or something. So I picked up my phone and sang a song and sent it. And she said that he's so transfixed by that, and he doesn't pay attention to anything. So along these same lines, as I'm thinking about singing for healing, and like, here is another family that wants to stay engaged with me on some level, and there's a connection through music. So I'm still exploring the ways to involve families and the people that I work with, and something that happens outside of water, and making the singing be a part of it. And, you know, starting to value that and charge for it. And it still is my offering. It's still my love offering.
Great. So do you have any question about like how to move forward with that, or I'm just curious?
I'm just grateful to plug back in because things have been so busy. So it's helpful to be looped back in and supported, and to see others that are on the path too. And I know we've talked, and I've heard some things about family music jams in here. So that's an idea that I'll be throwing out more, and just happy to be plugging back in. No questions tonight.
Great. Well, congrats on putting those offers out. And yeah, I mean, my feedback, even if it's unsolicited, is great. And keep it simple. And it's like, you know, if you're going to do a group offering, then my thought would be, if I can get 5 people in for this, it's going to happen. And I'm going to charge X, you know, for this thing to happen, you know, right? And that would be a way to keep it simple, you know. And then for the private stuff, okay, here's what I charge, and yeah, I'll come over and play for half an hour for, you know, for your kid, or like, you know, whether you want to call it music therapy or just hanging out and like playing for them, you know, whatever it might be. Keep it simple, have an hourly rate. That would be, you know, okay, do you want to move forward with this? How often would you like to try it? Would you like to try it once? Would you like to try to do it every other week? You know, how's that strike you?
Yeah. And simple, keeping it simple. Remember, yeah.
Awesome. Anybody else got anything they want to ask about? Well, I think I'm going to call it a night. It's great to see everybody. Great to see you, Shalene. Great to see you, Emily, Sandy, everybody. Appreciate you guys. Take care.